Hi, I'm Nancy Griffin from Saugeen Conservation. I've been asked today to help you learn more about invasive species. Come with me and let's take a look at some of the invasive species in gray and Bruce. Invasive species of gray Bruce. An Earth Week presentation for Bruce County Museum brought to you by Saugeen Conservation. Let's start with the aquatic invaders. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway system was dredged or made deeper so larger ships could come through. Unfortunately, along with it came the sea lamprey. Sea lampreys, with their razor-sharp tongue and sharp teeth, are able to attach themselves like giant bloodsuckers to the sides of fish. Using lampricide, a special chemical designed to kill just sea lampreys, or barricades like the one at Denny's Dam on the Saugeen River, or live capture are all methods of reducing the amount of sea lampreys that can get upstream to spawn. Ships sailing from the Black and Caspian Seas took on extra water as ballast in the bottom of the ship so they could make it across the ocean without tipping over. When they got into our Great Lakes system, they let out some of that ballast water, and out with it came the zebra mussel and the quagga mussel. While zebra mussels prove to be a nuisance to humans, they can be deadly for animals. In some instances, these creatures will attach themselves to our freshwater clams to the point where they can't breathe, they can't get food, and end up dying. And the weight of carrying around thousands of these zebra mussels on a crayfish could definitely crush it. While these creatures are quite small in size, only about the size of your thumbnail, they do create a really big problem. First off, when they bring in fresh water in through one tube, they feed on all kinds of microscopic animals and plants, pushing out clean fresh water afterwards. That's taking away from the food source for many other creatures. Second, that fresh water that comes back out is so clean that species of fish like walleye that need cloudy water to survive, they're going blind because the water is so clean. Because the water is so clean as well, plants are able to survive in deeper waters. They're getting more sunlight farther down, which is blocking waterways from traffic. Another problem is that these creatures are taking into their bodies more PCBs and mercuries and levels of different contaminants in the water. Then these become food for other creatures, and it goes up the food chain. Roundhead goby arrived into our Great Lakes systems about the same time that the zebra mussels and the quagga mussels did. Roundhead goby actually eat zebra mussels where no other creatures will in this area. The problem is, roundhead goby eat lots of other things as well. These fish only grow to 15 centimeters long. They become food for other creatures, which ends up becoming a vector for many contaminants from the zebra mussels to get through the food chain. Small fish are eaten by larger fish are eaten by larger fish, and then we eat the larger fish as well. Many people like to use live bait when they're fishing. The unfortunate thing, people used to be able to purchase live crayfish to go fishing with. And these crayfish were brought up from the Mississippi River system. These crayfish, rusty crayfish, look like they have 2 spots of red paint on their carapace. They grow much larger in size than our native species do and are very territorial. They'll fight our native species to the death. Nowadays, if you want to go fishing with live crayfish, you must catch your own from the same water body that you're going to go fishing in. Carp are often in the news when we're talking about invasive species. Silver carp is the most notorious one of the ones that we're worried about getting into our Great Lakes system. It's the fish that will jump out of the water when motorboats come near, which doesn't seem like much of an issue until you consider a meter-long fish jumping out of the water could easily knock you out of the boat and into the water yourself. From very large creature to very tiny. These creatures, spiny water flea and the fishhook water flea, are creatures that get stuck in the crop of fish so fish can't digest them and they end up starving to death. Check your fishing gear. Make certain you're not moving anything from one place to another. Now let's move on to the land and some terrestrial invaders. Dandelion was introduced here back in the early 1700s because you can actually eat the leaves of dandelion. And of course, we've all played with them. St. John's wort is named from the fact that it blooms around the time of the festival of St. John in early July. And wort is the Old English word meaning plant. The leaves of this plant have oils in them that, when ingested by livestock, makes their muzzle area very susceptible to sunburn, making it so sore they don't want to eat even. Nowadays, we use this plant to help make different types of medicine. Now let's get into the forest invaders. The emerald ash borer is in the news a lot lately. Originally from Asia, this insect has made its way across North America. Emerald because it's green in color, ash because it attacks ash trees, and borer because the young bore holes just under the bark of the tree and then exit out the hole to go infect other trees. After about 2 years of infection with emerald ash borer, an ash tree, will die. To help you identify them, look for small D-shaped holes on your ash trees. Very tiny though, hard to detect. In many areas, they've done detective work that includes putting up traps like this sticky one in ash trees to see if the insect is present. It's now here in all of Grey and Bruce. If you have ash trees, keep an eye on them. All of Grey and Bruce and much of northeastern North America has the emerald ash borer now. The Asian longhorn beetle, or starry night beetle, was one we were quite concerned about in this area in the mid-1990s. They were first discovered in an area north of Toronto, near Canada's Wonderland, and they prefer maple trees. They are somehow associated with some shipping that took place from Asia over to North America, and they were found in some of the pallets of wood down in Kitchener, wood that had been used to help ship materials to Walkerton and to Harriston. So we were on the lookout for this creature, but thankfully none were reported in this area. The moral of the story: don't move firewood. Many of the insects associated with attacking trees are often found in firewood. If you are going camping, buy your firewood from the campground itself. Don't bring camp firewood with you from one place to another. You may accidentally be bringing in an infestation of an invasive species. Another insect that likes to attack trees are the pine shoot beetles, so the tiny twigs of pine trees. The beetle lays its egg just underneath the twig of the tree. The insect starts to suck the juices as a larva inside. You might notice some sap coming out of the twig of the tree. You also may notice a few dead twigs on your tree. To give you an idea of how quickly this creature can take over, as with most invasive species, these are places that it infected. Look at the date, December 1992. Here we are in Ontario. Look at that, the elephant on its side. We're up near the tail of the elephant. So this is down in the United States. These are all counties within the United States where it was in 1992, 93, 95, 96, and 97. It is also in Bruce County and the counties below it. Just that information hadn't been sent in to help make this slide. So you can see how quickly different species in the forest, invasive species, can move from one place to another and take over. Garlic mustard escaped out of someone's garden. This plant can grow up to 2 meters tall, loves to live in the forest, and it takes over from our native wildflowers. While it is edible, you can make a salad out of these plants. It does tend to take over the entire forest floor. It's found everywhere that there are mainly forest areas in North America now. Common buckthorn has developed a unique way of survival. The seeds pass solid through any birds that eat them and start new plants wherever they fall. Now most of North America is covered with common buckthorn growing. The spongy moth, formerly known as the European gypsy moth, has a caterpillar that's voracious. It loves to eat trees. Notice the 5 pair of blue tubercles followed by 6 pair of red tubercles on the caterpillar's back. As an adult, the female is much larger than the male, and the black cocoons are easily seen in areas that are infested. These infestations take place on a regular basis. Every 5 to 7 years, we have an outbreak. This year looks like it will be a year of a larger outbreak than last. Signs of outbursts: you might see areas of deforestation where all the leaves have been taken off the tops of the trees. You may see a massive number of caterpillars heading up the trunks of the trees. Signs that they've been in the area and have laid their eggs. These are egg masses here on the side of the tree. In some areas, we're able to do surveillance and even spraying to help cut down the amount of damage that they can do on a forest. A fanatic of William Shakespeare and his plays decided that here in North America we needed all of the birds mentioned in William Shakespeare's plays. So he released into New York City, in Central Park, European starlings, European sparrows, and a number of other birds. Those birds then took off and moved all over North America. To this day, they still are found everywhere here in North America. Back in the early 1970s, we brought over from Asia on purpose an insect that would control another insect. Aphids that were attacking the soybean plants planted here could be controlled by ladybugs. Ladybugs like to eat aphids. So the multicolored Asian ladybug was brought over to control the aphid problem. The problem with multicolored Asian ladybugs is that they don't know what to do when it comes to wintertime. They move into our homes instead of hibernating like our native species do. These creatures also like to move in large flocks. And finally, these multicolored Asian ladybugs actually bite as well. So our best laid plans don't always work out well. What do all these invasive species have in common? Well, they all come from another place. It might be just a county away as opposed to a country, or a community away, or even a forest away. They tolerate a variety of habitat conditions. They adapt especially easily in disturbed areas. They are often generalists. They live off a wide range of food types. They don't get diseases. They compete aggressively with our native species for resources: food, shelter, water, and space. They grow and reproduce rapidly, and they lack natural enemies or predators in their new ecosystem. They have no natural population control. So what can we do? We know there's a lot of problems out there, but there are many things we can do to ensure we don't have more problems. Inspect all cargo and containers and remove invasives wherever possible. Don't move firewood. I can't stress that one enough. Dispose of live bait properly. Never let pets or plants go wild. Plant native species whenever possible. Educate yourself and others. Spread the word, not the problem. There are many more invasive species than the ones that we've talked about today. See what you can do to help stop the problem.